Welcome to Wildcat Way. I'm your host, William Ogles, joined by
Will Brackett.
For over 100 years, Sweetwater High School has been an integral part of the Sweetwater community, as well as becoming a community in and of itself. We here at SHS, students, teachers, alumni, have all been impacted by our high school.
SHS is such a key cog in our development that we here at Wildcat Way have decided that we should shed some light on the history and culture of SHS. And just like any other community, we have the influential members that have helped develop and guide our shared cultural history.
This series will aim to introduce, remember, honor, and meet those people that have had a positive impact on both SHS and the Sweetwater community as a whole. These individuals have helped us build the beautiful tapestry that is SHS and have influenced the way that we do things, the Wildcat way, if you will. We hope you enjoyed this series. So, we're here with Coach Mickey Barong. Class of 79, did you say?
1979.
What did you do in high school that kind of was an accolade?
Well, I take pride in the fact that I served as my class president all 4 years of high school.
That's impressive.
And my senior year, I was student council vice president. So that was my major accomplishment.
Very few people able to say they're president for all 4 years of their high school team.
It was definitely an honor.
Would you say you had a constant or a very steady interest in sports?
Oh yes, couldn't help it in my family. My 3 older brothers played football here at Sweetwater High School. 2 of them went on to play football at the University of Memphis, which back then was Memphis State University. And of course, Dad being a coach as I was growing up, you couldn't get away from it.
So you could say that Sweetwater football was a Barong family legacy.
You could say that, yes sir.
So you mentioned your dad being a big influence. What growing up with such a prestigious father figure, in football, we don't know too much about his family life. So could you kind of tell us how he was, not necessarily just on the field, but also at home?
Very loving man, but a strict disciplinarian. You had to walk the line with him, which is great. I think it's paid off on all 5 of his children. We've done fairly well, and I think it's a compliment to he and my mother. She was a backbone of the family, and she ran the family farm for years and years till we got out of the farming business. But yeah, you walked a fine line with Dad. He was an avid quail hunter. Had some of the best quail bird dogs around. People would come to him all the time, buy or trade. Back when I was very young, he would sell the quail he'd killed during the quail season to buy our Christmas gifts. So, but he loved outdoors, loved to hunt, loved to work with his bird dogs.
If you could describe King Barong's coaching style in a few words, what are the first things that come to mind when you think of him and his football career?
Utilize the talent that you have. He was a good adjuster. 1 year you may have had excellent speed, so you adapted, used offenses that would work better with speed. Other years you may not have had that speed, so you adapted your offense and defense to what best suited the players that you had. Very intelligent person as far as football goes. I never will forget one time, I think it was Steve, when he was at the University of Memphis. They played UT, and we went down for the game, which we traveled to a lot of the ball games, Memphis, all over the South. But anyway, Memphis led UT at halftime, and UT came out in the second half and adjusted to what Memphis was doing. And I never will forget, after the ball game back at the athletic dorm, Dad drew up on a kitchen napkin to one of the assistant coaches at Memphis, "Here's how you all should have adjusted to count on what they did." Coach said, "God, we should have had you in the press box." So he could pick up on anything, just by watching the game.
Now, Coach, I've heard it said often that adjustments, especially in football, but in sports in general, halftime adjustments are key.
Yes.
So you're saying Coach King L. Barong himself was a fantastic tactician.
Yes, and at halftime, we didn't have the field house when he coached here. We would go into the old, what is now the basketball dressing, and he would get on the chalkboards, chalk back then, and he would draw up the play and say, "Okay, here's what they're doing, now we need to do this." Always counteracting to what the other team was doing.
So we have sort of a picture of King Barong in the huddle and in the locker room, but I'm sure everybody in Sweetwater has heard stories of him getting on to players and him supporting players on the sidelines. So what are some things that you would normally see from him while he was coaching on the sidelines and while the game was going on?
If he were coaching today, he would be in jail right now, because he can't get away with things that he got away with. He would grab the player, and he all did it, you know, everybody loved him, and he would do it to get a point across. But he'd grab their headgear, you know, and shake it. And he'd sometimes kick them in the rear, you know. And one time,
We all need a good stiff kick in the rear sometimes,
yes,
don't
sir.
we? Absolutely.
To my brother Rick, he took the water cooler, picked it up, and tossed it on him during the game to get his attention. So, but he did things that you just couldn't get away with anymore.
Yes.
And but the kids respected him. You know, you always still hear stories of, you know, how that he showed them, you know, how to be a man and how to take on adversity.
Speaking of how to be a man, he coached them up on how to be a Wildcat. Is that fair to say?
Oh yes, oh yeah.
So he's one of kind of the inspirational founders of the Wildcat way,
Yes,
as it were.
yes.
What are some of the team ethos or ideas that he tried to instill in these young men?
Well, it's a team game, and what you do affects the other 10 players on the field. He really emphasized that. He also emphasized, you know, that not only do you wear the jersey here on Friday nights, but when you go out into the community, you represent the team, the school, and your community in general. Always play hard and give it your best effort. You know, if you're going to spend the time, I remember telling players, you know, if you're going to give up blood, sweat, and tears that it takes during practice, you know, give it all on Friday nights to make it worthwhile.
Would you say that your father was, you know, not just a literal father to you, but a father figure to everybody he coached?
Oh yes, yes. Many players would tell you that he was a father figure to them. Kippy Brown, who coached both 71-72, I'm sorry, the quarterback, the 71-72 state championships, will tell you to this day, you know, he was like a father to me. There were many players that often say that.
Kippy Brown's one of the success stories from Sweetwater,
Very
right?
much so. Kippy graduated here in spring of '73, offered a scholarship at Memphis State, played there 4 years, got into coaching. He was an assistant coach at UT Knoxville, then got into the pro ranks and was an assistant coach for the Seattle Seahawks 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl, 3 years ago. But Kippy is now retired from the NFL, living in Nashville. But yes, Kippy was the leader of the 71-72 teams. Yes.
But that's somebody who you can definitely say your father probably had a very positive impact and influence
Oh
on
yes, yes.
here at Sweetwater, showing him the Wildcat
Yes,
way to do
yes,
things.
yes, no doubt. Yeah, and another sort of funny story too is we used to have a poultry farm, and we had like 15,000 laying hens. We had 5 chicken houses, probably 60 yards long, and you had a lower cage on each side and upper cage on each side. But anyway, every so often you have to get rid of your old hens and get in young hens. And Dad would always get the football guys to go out and help, and he would pay them, but that was always a long-running joke that, well, let's go move the hens, and they would help us, and that would happen for many years.
You mentioned him making sure the players are very actively involved in their community and very, very open with the Sweetwater community.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure as him being a football coach, he was very involved in a lot of the community things. So when you saw Coach Barong out in public, what were normally the things that he would do?
Well, he was a cut-up. You know, he would like to come to town on Saturdays and, you know, go to the barbershop or whatever and cut up. But he was also over the Monroe County Fair, which you guys don't even remember because we've not had it so long. But it was a huge event in Sweetwater, Monroe County back in the 60s, 70s, and I guess into the 80s. But he was director of the Monroe County Fair. So, and it usually happened Labor Day week, but which sort of coincided with football. But you know, he spent a lot of time with the community in organizing the county fair, which, like I said, was a huge event. But again, I go back. You know, his quail hunting was something he cherished. But he was very active. He was a cut-up, you know, and enjoyed going out and seeing people.
So nowadays, to be a coach at Sweetwater High School, you have to teach a class. Back then, did you have to?
Yeah, Dad was a PE teacher for many, many years, and he was also an art teacher. He was a great artist, just unbelievable. You know, he could sit down and freehand and draw anything. So he taught art for many years, and then ended up teaching driver's education. And
A proud tradition carried on by Steve.
Yes, Steve is following suit with that.
It's a family tradition amongst the Bronx.
But he, when he retired, he was doing driver education. But he also served as principal at Sweetwater High School for 2 years. And then he coached basketball, not many years, but while he did that, he always joked, he said that was just a sport to keep the football athletes in shape. So, but had some pretty good basketball teams too, but he didn't coach it for many years.
So, did you have him in class, or do you know how, kind of his manner?
He was here when I was in school, a student here. He had a heart attack in the fall of '75, right after a scrimmage game here. And the doctors made him get out of coaching. Said there's nothing worse than coaching. Well, the only other thing worse than coaching is politics. And they said you need to get out of it, stress-wise. So he got out of it then, and that's when he went to driver education. But I did not have him in class. They had 2 driver ed teachers then, and I had Mr. Johnson, the other driver ed teacher. So no, I did not have him in class.
Now, you said, when did your dad start working here? When did King Braun start working?
He came in the fall of
Sweetwater?
1951.
Okay, so from 1951, what year did he retire from here?
1986.
So some of our current teachers here may have had him in school.
Yes, that's possible.
So people like,
let me think here. You know,
I'd say probably people like Coach Weaver, Coach Martin, Miss Vineyard, maybe Officer Rusty Vineyard. I mean, all of them would have been here.
Because the last few years he taught, it was strictly driver education. So yes.
So he was here from 51 till 86. That's 35 years.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And according to sources, there's been a barong in this building for 60 years.
61 consecutive years. And
Wow.
then we skipped 2 years and picked back up. So out of the last 66 years, there's been a barong in this building, either as a faculty member, principal, or student. 62 out of the last 64 years.
Wow.
Yes.
And
For
currently,
61 consecutive years.
Currently, which barongs are working here?
Steve
Besides
is
yourself,
teaching
and you're a
driver's
guidance
ed.
counselor,
I'm school counselor,
assistant
and
basketball
Heather,
coach.
assistant basketball coach, and Heather, my niece, Rick's daughter, is the Apex assistant.
As well as softball, right? She's
Yeah,
assistant softball
She's
coach.
assistant softball coach starting this year. Yes.
And then what about Steve? We already mentioned Steve teaching driver's ed.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we got 3 barongs in the building.
We sure do. Yeah.
And if you all are all as great as your dad, then we'll be in great shape, huh?
Well, he was a good fella. Yes. Yeah. I just hope I can come close to being as good a person as he was.
It's clear. I'm sure. In my opinion, you've surpassed it already, Coach.
Well, thank
I
you.
appreciate you hooking me up with those keys on a regular basis. But we've had a barong in this building for 61 consecutive years.
Mm-hmm.
It's safe to say that the Barong family, not just your father, but the rest of you, have had an influence on the way we behave as Wildcats around here. Is that fair to say?
I would think so. We love the blue and gold.
Absolutely. Are you guys blue and gold till you're dead and cold?
Yes. No doubt.
All
yes.
right.
Sweetwater High School means a lot.
If there is one thing that you could tell people about your father that they may not know, what's something you might want to tell them?
Well, again, he was a cut-up. He was always joking around with people, good-natured. He knew when to get serious with people, and especially his players and students. But, off the field, he loved them all as he did on the field. And I think, again, 99% of the people that you were to talk to in the community who knew him or had him would say the same thing.
So with the Barong family being almost synonymous with Wildcat football and Wildcat sports in general, today what do you think would be a couple of things that if King Barong could, he would say to the modern day Wildcats?
Be more physical. And I know that the game has, and due to probably good reasons, as far as the contact you can do on the field in practices and the time you can spend, you have to be more careful now. but he would say, God, you got to be more physical. You got to get after it more, and you know, make a strong tackle and do it properly, and you know, don't back down. Just you know, get after it.
So you mentioned your father was a very strict disciplinarian growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that stemmed from some sort of, you know, maybe Army service or anything like that?
It sure could. His parents, you know, his dad was my grandfather, his dad, died when I was 4 years old, so I did not know him very well. But hearing my relatives talk, he was a stern disciplinarian too. So he incorporated a lot of that from his father. And the military, Dad never talked about his tour of duty. He served in the Pacific during World War II, you know, against the Japanese. He drove a landing craft from the big ships, went on the beach and the front end of it lowered and the troops ran out. He drove it. And just by what little he talked about it, it affected him quite a bit. And you know, I think that taught him, you know, how to love life while you can. And, but I think probably the military did have some influence on him being a disciplinarian. As Coach Weaver, the military has had an influence on him, you know, to run a tight ship and you know, take care of loose ends, dot all your I's and cross all your T's.
That obviously transferred over to his football career. I mean, winning 2 consecutive straight championships. I mean, you've got to really have that work ethic and,
Yes.
you know, kind of not, kind of that, well, I forget the word, but sort of
grit, determination.
Grit and determination that, you know, you just don't see that kind of person really around anymore.
And a love for the game. I mean, he loved the game. He's on the Maryville College Wall of Fame. He played football at Maryville College. They played in the Tangerine Bowl his senior year, which is now the Citrus Bowl, I think, maybe.
They've got a banner from that still in the gym hanging up at Maryville College.
You know, he
Woodson-Bear Gymnasium.
And he was on Everett High School's, I want to say, only undefeated high school team. He played on it, and he just loved the game. And our summers, back then, you know, we had to take care of the field. We would come in and mow, and line the field off, and put water sprinklers on it. We didn't have underground irrigation system back then. We had these big, huge pipes ran on top of the ground with the sprinklers coming out of them, and we'd always have to come in and move those. And we were out here a whole lot during the summer too, taking care of the field. And, you know, he loved it. He didn't mind doing that at all because he loved it. He loved Sweetwater High School and the players.
I think that King Barong really stands as a testament to what it means to be a Wildcat. And he founded and kind of led the charge for the Wildcat way during his tenure, his 35-year tenure here at Sweetwater High School. And I mean, I don't think there's a better example. I can't think of any.
Well, Bill Dupes was an incredible coach too, and I coached with Coach Dupes for several years. And we won the '93 state championship. And you know, Bill was an incredible coach, loved the game also, very intelligent as far as the X's and O's in the ball game. So he and Bill, you know, definitely stand out among Sweetwater High School football coaches.
Oh, well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Coach Barong, I'm sure you love talking about your dad. He sounds like a great guy. You know, I'm sure you're sad, but, you know, talking to you kind of makes me wish I'd known him because, if you don't mind, when did your father die?
He died December 17th, 2013.
Yeah.
So it'll be, what, 4 years this December.
Yeah, and four long years.
Yes.
I'm sure it's a terrible loss, and Sweetwater High School still feels for you and for your family for that loss.
They had, when he retired officially from Sweetwater High School, the school hosted a King for the Day program for him, and I never will forget. He said he's never regretted one bit of being at Sweetwater High School.
It's definitely been a privilege to learn about so much rich history that's gone in just one person in Sweetwater High School, and the effect that your father has had on not just our football program, but our high school as a whole. And you can still see those effects today in the way our sports programs are run and the way our school is run. You can still see a lot of his legacy through that.
Yeah, I hope that something that he's done, things he's done here, have made Sweetwater High a better place.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank
I hope
you
you
all.
enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I know we did.
enjoy it. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And I'm Will Brackett, and this is William Ogles.
And stay tuned for future episodes of the Wildcat Way.